Somebody unmute.
You're live.
We are live.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. We are here for the June 1st Weathersfield Town Council meeting. It feels like it's been a long time since we've had a full Town Council meeting. We've seen each other a lot over the last couple of weeks during the deliberations and workshops. So it's good to be back here for an actual traditional council meeting. Before we begin, Councilor Flanagan, if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, guys and ladies. Appreciate that. Attendance by Town Clerk Dolores.
Okay, Councilor Bell?
Here.
Councilor Flanagan?
Here.
Councilor Forrest?
Here.
Councilor Hill?
Here.
Councilor O'Connor?
Here.
Councilor Pelletier?
Here.
Councilor Penello?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Mazzarello?
Here.
And Mayor Rell.
Here.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I just got a text. If I toggle back and forth between my agenda and Zoom, do I lose video? Is that what you're saying, Gary?
So try it again. Let's see what happens.
Nope, you're muted.
Mayor, I have my agenda up on one side of my screen and I have the Zoom on the other, and then I have a Word document where I'm taking notes on the third. So I think there is a way to do it so you don't have to lose the video.
Okay, so if I do,
Give it a try and let's see what happens.
if I did that, I've lost video
Correct.
I don't see you anymore.
and I'm back. Okay, I'll do it this way then. I'll bring up my second screen. So, well, while I'm doing that, why don't we, public comment? Is there anybody,
Okay,
public
Mayor.
comment?
Yep, there I have.
Yes, I'm here for public comments. Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
Mr. Moore?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to call in and say thank you to all of you for what you did Friday night. You really sent out a good, strong message to the town that the mill rate is no longer going to be a runaway mill rate, and that all of us, whether we have big salaries or small salaries, are part of the town of Weathersfield. And I wanted to say thank you for that very much. It was a powerful meeting and a powerful message to come out to the town, and you deserve the thanks. I want to encourage you to find other ways. I like the last amendment that you passed about an endowment fund or some other way to take the burden of everything off the taxpayers. There were a few things in the budget discussion that came up that I think you need to start looking at, not next March, but soon. What can we do with MDC? That's probably an eternal question that has no good answer, but we're members. MDC will take anything they can get. They took our neighborhood over for 2 years. Can we deal with that? What's going to happen now that this, according to the paper, the place in Hartford is no longer going to function with trash? Is that going to save us money or cost us more money? Are there other places to deal with trash? Are there other ways to do medical care for the town that will cost less? One of the towns, I think it was either East Hartford or Manchester, said they got a decrease, but nobody else did. Medical care, of course, we know is expensive. And the other thing I really want to encourage you to do is the grand list. And we've got some projects going out there. The apartments at the corner of Mill and Middletown, the medical building that will be built where Puritan Furniture was, the restaurant at 24 Maple that my neighborhood fought and would still fight, but it will be built and they will add to the mill rate. When will those be effective and by how much? But the other factor is, drive around the town. Look at the number of places that are empty. Now, we're receiving taxes on those, but how much more would we receive if Weight Watchers were developed, if the old nursing home on Jordan Lane were developed, if the south end of the Price Right Plaza, that's looking like a ghost town up there as you get toward the police station. The old Rite Aid building, which is no longer Rite Aid, and what was once Abdow's years ago and now sits there empty, and I thought a bank was going in there, but apparently not. If these things were developed, we would get some more money for taxes, I'm assuming, which would help the grand list grow. There's somebody in the town must be responsible for that and must be able to look at that. Just a few thoughts so we don't get to next March or April and hear the same things. But my main words are, thank you so very much. It was a powerful message that you delivered to all of us as taxpayers, and I, for one, deeply appreciated your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Woodward. We appreciate the kind remarks. And yes, we are going to be looking into those, a lot of those, the questionable increases with MIRA and NBC, as well as some savings with hopefully a robust grand list for next year. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yep, have another caller. Okay. I believe this.
Good evening, this is Bob Young. How you doing tonight? Am
Good
I
evening.
on?
Yes, you're on.
Good evening.
Good to hear you.
I'm glad Mr. Woodward had followed me before, had come before me to talk about the issues. I'm not aware of what the new mill rate is. Have no idea. But from what he's saying, it must be less, I hope. And I know I gave you a number of ideas and thoughts to implement. And if you don't implement them this year, I hope you'll consider implementing them next year and the year after as they come up for renewals. And things that will come up for renewals, in my opinion, would be something like union contracts. Union contracts for the Board of Education, union contracts for our own town hall. I would also think of many different leases that we do have, such as the academy. I forget what word they use for that. It's for the children who are 18 to 21. I know we're paying a hefty amount of money for a building that we're renting, or a portion of the building that we're renting. Let's bring that back into town hall. Let's bring that into one of our own buildings so we don't pay rent. Let's look at a lot of these things that we're constantly paying for on a regular basis and try to find some ways of cutting back. Yeah, I agree with Mr. Woodward about those numerous buildings that we have in town that are not producing good taxes. By that I mean they're not full, they're empty. We have to do something about that. And I really think that all backs up to redevelopment. The people that we have working for us, I think maybe we should be looking at them very closely as to what their performance has been. And yeah, we have companies that come to Wethersfield, they set up shop, and next thing you know, another company is coming to Wethersfield, setting up shop in the same spot, which means we lost somebody. We should be looking at that. We should be looking at where's our longevity when we invest. Well, if they come and they stay a year or two and then they leave, that is not longevity. That is not in getting our money's worth out of the investment that it takes to bring some new company in. We need someone to come in who's going to stay for a long time. And then they're on autopilot until 10, 15, 20 years later. That means that in a situation like that, then our economic development people are paying for themselves. But if there's a constant turnover going on, we should be looking at these people and dismissing them and bringing in somebody new. We just can't fool around anymore. Our thoughts in our town have been so bad about building little empires that continue to cost us money. And I really think you need to do some planning ASAP for the next budget, which is only next year from now. It's going to get worse. We're not going to get better unless we really have good people and we're efficient. If we're not efficient, we're not going to be around for long. We'll be around for long, but we will be inefficient, and we don't want to be that way. So I hope that as we go into this next year and you have items come up for discussion, instead of saying yay, you should say nay, and turn them down. We don't need all these dump trucks. We don't need all these bulldozers or these payloaders and turf and all these other sports things. We don't need. You know, when they sold us on that idea of Catone Field, back in 2004, 2005, we were supposed to get economic development out of that investment. We got nothing. The people that promoted it and lied to their teeth to bring it forth and make it happen haven't delivered anything after all these years. I would also suggest we look at the gate receipts that come in from these games. I know now games are probably out with the virus, but the fact is when they start coming back, we should be putting that in our pocket, in our bucket. We should look at the Standish House when that comes up, that year period when it comes up, and please put it on your Gantt chart to be worked on much prior to, so you could talk about it and get more rent out of that. Or take the building back and use it for the transitional academy. Take the building down at that other building right down the street, the Kenny Center. Make that into our new transition academy. It's on the bus line, and that's something that the superintendent wanted, but instead he paid a dear price up on the Silestine. He was going to deliver cash and a great business plan. He delivered, I don't think, anything. But anyway, I hope you'll talk about your budget decision, because I don't know a word about it. I haven't heard it.
And Mr. Young,
okay? I'd like to hear what it did. Thank you.
Mr. Young, before you hang up, I just need, for the record, name and address, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Name is Robert Young, number 20, Copper Mill Road, Weathersfield.
Great, thank you. Just for the record, I appreciate it.
Yep.
And I believe, Mayor, that was the only one listed for public comment as a call-in.
Okay, and we did receive some correspondence. Dolores, do you have those with you?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Would you like me to read them?
please, if you don't mind.
Okay. This afternoon, I got something from Deborah Cohn, Mayor Rell, Town Manager Gary Edwards, and members of the Weathersfield Town Council. When Anthony Vega Cruz was killed here in Weathersfield over a year ago, a number of residents were alarmed by the protests that resulted. I assume you're all reading the news and understanding how last year's protest was nothing compared to what is happening in an ever-growing number of cities, not only across the country, but right here in Connecticut. New Haven, Bridgeport, Waterbury, and Danbury. This is the new reality, and Weathersfield is not immune. It is no longer sufficient for town leaders to send thoughts and prayers or declare that we must be sure that Weathersfield is an open and welcoming town. It is no longer sufficient to remain silent about racism, the lack of adequate police training, or the lack of police oversight. It is no longer enough to proclaim that we must do better. While we're talking, a neighbor, a member of our community, lives in fear for her loved one who wears his favorite hoodie while running. He is Black, and she knows that possibilities of his being perceived as a threat and being targeted for retribution for simply being who he is in Weathersfield. While we're talking people are being killed by police, platitudes will no longer placate victims or survivors. and the time to talk about saying anything of substance is over. Last year, a local shop carried t-shirts that referred to Wethersfield as being known as the Christmas movies. Please be reminded that we are not only, that is the only thing Wethersfield is now known for. It is also known as a place where a teenager was killed by a cop, and so sadly joins towns across the state that have reputation for being home to racism and police brutality. The bottom line in my mind is that Wethersfield has the capacity to remain complicit in systematic racism, but it also has the capacity to change. James Baldwin told us that no place is immune with these words, white people are astounding by Birmingham. Black people aren't. White people are endlessly demanding to be reassured that Birmingham is really on Mars. They don't want to believe, still less act on the belief that is happening in Birmingham is happening all over the country. They don't want to realize that there is not one step, morally or actually, between Birmingham and Los Angeles. So I pose these questions to you as I have in the past. I'll keep asking until I get satisfactory answers. Number one, what is the status of the use of body cams for Wethersfield police are supposed to be wearing? Two, how is the town leadership making sure that this will be put in place? Three, who is the person in charge of this necessary task? 4, why are residents not getting regular updates on the process to make the use of body cams a reality? 5, what is the employment status of the officer who killed Anthony Vega Cruz? 6, how is town leadership raising concerns about why he was ever hired in the first place after his work experience in his previous town of employment? 7, who is the person in charge of this necessary inquiry? Number 8, is there a de-escalation training program ready to go for every Wethersfield officer? 9, if yes, who is authoring the training and who from town leadership is actively engaged, making sure that it happens sooner rather than later? 10, when will town leaders who believe in it is time for a new chief of police to take charge speak publicly about their concern? 11, when are these questions going to be answered publicly and repeatedly as developments occur? It is important that you understand people are angry, tired, and demanding change, not only recently across the country, but after the murder of George Floyd, but also here in Wethersfield, where closure for a dead teenager seems impossible. Respectfully, Deborah Cohn. And I have another letter from Carolyn McCarthy. It is long past the time for Wethersfield to form a police commission or similar body. There needs to be an independent, transparent, citizen-involved body for the following purposes. 1, to ensure we have an appropriate use of police force and pursuit policy. And 2, to ensure the policies are implemented and enforced. And 3, to accept, instigate, and immediate citizen complaints. The citizens of Wethersfield deserve nothing less than a state-of-the-art police department, governance body, and state-of-the-art use of force policy. Let's find out where these are and implement them in Wethersfield. I would like to meet with the mayor, the town manager, and the chief secretary to identify the stakeholders and get this process moving. I look forward to hearing from you. And that was from Carolyn McCarthy. Those are the only 2 things I have.
Thank you, Dolores. Appreciate that. Nobody called in the time?
No additional phone calls at this time, Mayor.
Okay. No hearing ordinances or resolutions. I'll move right over to reports from boards and commissions. Our members. Anybody have any reports? I know we're kind of busy with the budget. And I'm sorry if I can't see everybody, you can always just jump right on. I got to toggle back and forth. Okay, everybody's quiet. No discussion items, workshop items, no resignations or appointments. Leads us to item C3, estate matching grant for the elderly and disabled transportation grant. And before we get to that, I just need to, using myself from this discussion, I will, have the computer on, but will be muted and no video. So, Deputy Mayor Mazzarella, if you will.
And if I might also be heard, Mayor Rao?
Yes, Mr.
Like you, I also have a similar conflict of interest this particular item, and I'll be taking the same steps as you are by muting myself and stopping the video. I'll be able to hear the conversation generally, but I'll come back in when this particular item is passed.
Thank you. Mr. Mazzarella.
So we have item C3, statement grant program for elderly and disabled demand responsive transportation, referred to as Dial-A-Ride expansion grant. Mr. Town Manager, did you want to start on a little explanation? Or?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and to the council. I'll do a very brief introduction, and then I see that Director Kathy Bagley has also shown up in the picture, and I believe Assistant Director Erica Texera, I think I saw the number pop up as well, so I'll default to either one of them. This, as I said in my justification, over the years there's been several mergers of medical organizations and facilities throughout the region and throughout the country. As a result of that and changes in insurance coverage, residents are no longer able to just get access to certain medical care. Sometimes within the boundaries of the town of Wethersfield, they're forced to or required to go outside of the boundaries. This grant helps us expand the area for which we provide services to our residents, and with that, I'll default to Kathy Bagley or Erica, either one, whoever's up.
Good evening. This grant is one that we've received since 2006 from the state, and it allows us, as the manager said, to be able to take our seniors and people with disabilities to a variety of different towns that are outside our regular Dial-A-Ride system. And it's also a grant that we do in conjunction with Renewal and Rocky Hill. So it works that it's a 3-town grant that we get from the state, and it allows all of us to take medical appointments to Bloomfield, East Hartford, Farmington, Glastonbury, New Britain, and West Hartford. And Wethersfield serves as the administrator for the grant, and the other 2 towns, we work with them closely. So this is the state's renewing it this year, so all we have to do is approve with your permission to go ahead and approve the renewal for the upcoming fiscal year.
Thank you, Kathy. If anyone has any questions, if you could just jump right in. I can't see everyone on my screen here, so.
I have a quick question, Kathy. So I just want to clarify that there's no cost to the town, because there's some wording about it being a matching grant, or is it just because we've already paid for Dial-A-Ride service and that's the matching part? I just want to know if there's any additional cost to the town.
You are correct. Because we are on the Dial-A-Ride system, that is the match, that it shows the town already puts funds in for Dial-A-Ride service, so there is no other match from the town required.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anyone else? If no one has any other questions, can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to authorize the town manager to apply for and execute all agreements related to accepting a state matching grant program for elderly and disabled demand responsive transportation, Dial-A-Ride expansion grant, in the amount of $31,733 for Wethersfield and $89,436 total, and to sign a memorandum of understanding with the towns of Newington and Rocky Hill to provide a tri-town medical transportation service.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilor Pelletier and a second by Councilor O'Connor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay? Motion passes.
Excellent.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Mazzarella. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, item C4, and I know I saw Mike O'Neill on earlier. If you guys remember correctly, we brought this up, I think not the final meeting, final live meeting, but one of the last meetings we actually had at Town Hall in February. This is the Munis system that both the town and Board of Ed rely on for a lot of their financial software and record keeping. There is a contract before us, and if Mr. O'Neill is on and wants to explain it, love to hear it.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. This was an item that was before you back in February, and it was tabled at the time. There was a request for some additional information by the Deputy Mayor. And just to reiterate, Tyler Technologies provides the town with its, and the Board of Ed with its financial software. We share the cost equally with the Board of Ed. This is a 3-year extension of a contract that's for software licensing and hosted services. So all the server and all the backup is all done off-site and managed by Tyler. The total 3-year cost is $367,000, which is, for the 3 years combined, is about a 5% increase over the previous 3-year term, which is something that we kind of are given the number, but we do have conversations with them and try to work that number down a little bit, but that's in the range of what we've seen in past renewals. The additional information that was requested was concerning what's known by some as a transparency portal or e-checkbook. That's software that would allow the town to publish financial details of our general ledger or cash disbursements, journals, that sort of thing, on a web server for public access and for some level of analysis. We had done some work about 3 years ago looking at these systems and had gotten 3 quotes back at the time, but the decision was made internally that the cost did not justify the demand for this tool at the time. The cost then was, I think, in the $12,000 to $15,000 range across the 3 vendors, which is roughly what we have here that was provided by Tyler. They have a product known as Soprata, which accomplishes what we've been asked to look for here. So we went to them to get an idea of what this would cost today. The quote that they provided was for $12,800 annually, which I presume would increase over time. This was a 1-year quote, and there's also $5,600 in one-time implementation fees to get that system up and running. The item before you tonight for approval does not include this transparency portal. This was just provided as additional information, like I said, when we brought this forward in February.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Any questions from anybody?
Okay.
Mr. Mazzarella.
Mike, thank you very much for getting that additional information. Don't a little bit too rich for my blood. And I would hope that we may be able to come up with another plan or less expensive alternate. I think it's important to try and get that information out to the public. I'm not sure of how much detail needs to be out there. Spending our time on the budget over the last couple months, I realized myself all the unknown costs and implications of working on a budget, and I am reasonably confident that most of the public would have little understanding of what really goes behind the budget, and I'd like to try and find a way in the future to get that information out there to try and educate the residents as to where all this money's being spent and the need for it and so forth. So with that said, I would be in favor of just putting it off until a future date and proceed the renewal of the basic Munis software.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Anybody else with any comments about this? Kevin, Mr. Hill, Councilor Hill.
Thanks, Mayor. Mike, could you briefly comment on what the relationship is between Tyler Technologies and Munis? Like, how do they function together? Just so I can get a better sense of how these two operate independently and then together.
Munis is actually just a product name. So, which is, it's owned by, that's the name of the software, just like QuickBooks or any other name. QuickBooks is owned by Intuit. In this case, Munis is the product that's owned by Tyler Technologies.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Sure. Mr. Forrest.
What would be the downside or liability, or however you want to sort of define that, by not authorizing this particular expenditure at this time? What happens to the town staff? Where do we fail? Can we wait? And if we can't wait and we don't approve it now, what is the negative consequences of the act?
Our current contract agreement expires at the end of this month. So we'd be operating without a contract. Tyler does offer a one-year renewal, which is at a higher rate. The rate's lower for the 3 years. But we'd be in a position where we'd have to find another system. And I can tell you, back in 2000, I was involved in a number of these conversions, and there were a lot of them happening back then because of Y2K. But an implementation of this size would have approached $100,000 just for the implementation back then, and certainly that much today, and probably more than that.
And assume a multi-year backlog just to try to, the transition is not a simple one. It's not a matter of, taking it down for a week and transitioning over. It's not a line-for-line match. So you're basically rebuilding.
No, it's an enterprise scale system, yeah. So it's, there's just extensive, table structures and all of that would have to be converted into another system.
So, that's a little, that's sort of the IT infrastructure. Like, what actually would happen to the town if we don't approve this, as Councilor Mazzarella, Deputy Mayor Mazzarella suggests? Do the computers turn off? Do we not have a system that takes care of tax assessment? Like, really, what happens as if we don't approve this?
Well, it is hosted by the vendor, so they could, but I doubt that they would. I don't think they would do that. But we'd simply be operating without an agreement and consuming a product that we're not under contract to pay for. It does not include the tax system. The tax billing system is a separate system provided by a different vendor.
I'm not I'm not sure that sort of, so can we get the system for free then? Is that what you're saying? I'm not quite understanding why.
Yeah, we would
It's
no
not-
longer.
I have an idea about what's gonna happen, but I need you guys to tell me because I don't wanna guess. Like, does Park and Recs like not do payment systems and can't run programs? Like, what happens?
No, this covers payroll, human resources, accounts payable, purchasing, general ledger, all of financial reporting. We don't own the software. We license the software. So we simply would no longer be licensing the software, and presumably it could be switched off.
So Councilor Forrest, I want to make sure I'm understanding. Is the question what would happen if we didn't renew a contract with Tyler Technologies? How would we still be able to operate?
I mean, at a base level, that's sort of the question, but I'm looking for
Yeah, I mean,
you guys to provide a little bit more specifics about like.
you're looking at every.
I'm not going to present doom and gloom scenario if it's not doom and gloom. So I'm asking you, like, what? Do we not pay payroll? Do we not keep track of our accounts? Do we fail the yearly audit? Or is none of that happen and we just get it for free, but we're paying them extra?
Physically, we would not be able to. We don't have enough staff to conduct the transactions that need to take place and need to be recorded legally to show. I mean, you're looking at thousands of transactions. Paying vendors, accounts payable, accounts receivable, tracking payments. You're looking at a staff of 4 to 5 people that would have to somehow figure out how to manually record and follow every transaction. I think there's chart of account issues as well with the state in terms of providing that information. So without an accounting software, we would be set back decades in terms of functionality. We wouldn't have enough staffing to be able to manage the amount of transactions that have to take place in a timely manner.
May I jump in though? I think there may be some miscommunication here. I think the deputy mayor says he doesn't support the open checkbook aspect of this Tyler contract. And I want to speak to the deputy mayor, you support purchasing, you support the Tyler contract, you don't support the $12,000 open checkbook. Is that clear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I.
That was help. I mean, I looked at the large sum of money as well, Deputy Mayor, and when you sort of made the comments related to, I'm not comfortable spending this large sum of money, I must have misunderstood you, and I apologize for that. It's clearly at the end.
We go back several months ago, I asked that it be tabled because I was trying to get this transparency software as an add-on, and based on quotes that Mike received, I don't think that's feasible, but I fully support renewing a contract for our accounting system for the town, and apologize if I wasn't clear.
Mike,
and I apologize if I misunderstood. So, but in the motion, there's no discussion of like this, the $18,000 for the check.
No, but it was the,
No, it's not in the motion.
correct.
no, the full amount is in the motion, which the $18,099 increase, but the $12,800 is not in the motion. Deputy Mayor Mazzarella was talking about the department head comment of the $12,800 for the open checkbook portion.
Right.
I clearly missed the boat order there. Sorry about that, guys, and thank you, Councilor Moran, for straightening me out.
Councilor O'Connor.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I understand this because some of the comments Councilor Forrest had referenced made me think, and one of them was the answer. All right, so first we said we don't own the license. We're basically renting it. That's correct, right, Mike?
We don't own the software, we license the software.
But now, having come from the technology sector and currently work with a SaaS player today, I'm a little confused on just because we don't have to necessarily renew a license, and that doesn't mean we're no longer allowed to use it. Microsoft Word is an example, and most of us all have that, now sells it on a licensing basis. If you choose not to renew your license, they don't turn word off and say you can never use it again. So I would be very curious, if we don't renew a license, does that mean we do not have access to that system anymore? And I didn't hear a concrete yes or no on that. And the reason I asked that is, I gotta be honest with you, I'm a little surprised that they're asking for a 5% increase. One, did we ever think about going out to bid? Because I can guarantee you, if we go out to bid, they will lower that increase so that we don't go out to bid. Because in today's environment, and I know this from firsthand experience, companies are lowering fees. They're not increasing them. So I'm shocked that they're asking for a 5% increase, which is higher than the cost of living increase. It just, to me, it just seems like, is there a reason, one, we haven't gone out to bid on this. We've used these guys since I think I was on the council the first time. That's a long time to be using someone, and for them to basically charge us an increase after this many years of service, this is pure profit to them. They've already made back their R&D on this. We've been with them that long. That to me is, I personally feel like they're taking advantage of us just asking for any type of increase. They should be happy we renew with them. I am struggling to see where the increase comes from. I'd love to hear, one, why we didn't go out to bid or suggest going out to bid, and two, how do they justify the 5% increase? What exactly are we getting?
It's the same software we're getting for additional 3 years, so it's not 5% per year. First of all, it's 5% higher over 3 years. We didn't go out to bid because of the cost of implementing a new system, as I mentioned, is likely to run into 6 figures of one-time costs to convert to a new system.
Right.
I'm not really the type to just bluff and just do a bid with no intention of looking at the other bids or anything like that. It's just, I guess we can do that, but it's just not my inclination.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a bluff though either. The reality is we've been with these guys for a long time. We haven't done a market check on them, and we're just accepting an increase. And to me is, I would challenge that increase and say, what am I getting for that? I'm just shocked, having been in this industry and understand this industry, is most people aren't charging increases. They're just happy to keep the business. And I do feel that a lot of times these types of companies like to take advantage of municipalities because they have them over the barrel. In your example of, well, we can't leave because it'll cost us $100,000 to find somebody else. So every year we'll continue to pay more and more. I guarantee you, if a new municipality came online tomorrow, they'd be paying a lot less than us because it'd be very competitive.
I agree with that.
Well, then, did anyone reach back to them and say, can you work with us? I mean, we're having, it's tight for us as an economy. We're in a very unique town. I would push back and say, can you do something better on this? I mean, for the sake of being with them that long, all they can do is say no.
Well, I did do that. I mentioned that in my introduction, that I had done that, and that we do have a conversation.
And this originally was introduced in February of 2020, so it was prior to changes, but I know that Mike O'Neill has gone back, or as originally part of this conversation. We don't just accept a number that comes our way. We are historically pushing back on that number. I think an overall concern, as someone who's worked also with other municipal softwares, financial software, the reality is that the transition is a real cost. It's not something necessarily, I know the term bluff was just thrown about, but the reality is you're looking at $100,000 changeover, potentially more, as well as time and value added. That's not something that we build into a budget or have built into a budget going forward. So to have that conversation to suggest, hey guys, we might go somewhere else, is something, it's an interesting concept, but I think you're 30 days away from our contract expiring. we're at a point where we kind of need to make a decision as to which way we want to go. And the reality is going out to bid and looking at a procurement opportunity at this point, I'm not sure it's in the town's best interest, but I'd submit that to the council for discussion.
Well, I completely understand that. And Mike, by the way, I'm not challenging you on what you did or didn't do. I'm just trying to understand this, and I know I came in late to this, but having a background in this industry and understanding how they price and all of that, when I saw the 5% increase, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And you'd be surprised at how hungry companies are today, especially in today's economy, where, a lot of the cost comes on us from an implementation perspective, but watch how quickly they'll throw resources at us to help make that smoother and easier and less costly. And so, obviously we need the software, obviously we're using it, but these are questions I would hope we would do with any type of renewal, because 5% to me is incredibly high in today's.
Right. And Councilor O'Connor, I appreciate you raising that point, and it's good to have your knowledge on that level. I think the 5.818% is divided over the 3 years. Is that correct, Michael? It's over the 3-year term of the contract, so it's a little bit, I'm not as quick as math, but you're what, 1.7? Thereabouts, 1.7% increase per year, plus or minus. So I think there was some pushback to keep that number less than what growth was in the economy. I don't know where we move from here.
Okay. Anybody else with any comments? Well, Councilor O'Connor, very good points. Thank you for the in-depth analysis of this coming from within the industry. It's good to know, and obviously with the way we all handled the budget deliberations professionally and through mutual conversations, I'm sure going forward, whenever there is a bid proposal before us, we will do such homework as well with town staff to make sure that we are getting the best for the residents' dollars. So I appreciate that. With that, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve an amendment to application service provider agreement with Tyler Technologies for another 3 years commencing July 1st, 2020 and expiring June 30th, 2023 at the proposed amount of $367,662.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Dolores, did you get that?
Who was the second?
Flanagan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
Nay.
I have it. It was approved 8-1, Councilman O'Connor, I believe. I'm counting everybody correctly. Yep.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving forward, item C5. Again, thanks, Mike, for being here. This is the LAP policy for the town. I think it's currently provided by CIRMA. Did you want any comments for that at all? Mike?
This item is a 2-year extension of our, which is virtually identical to this. So this would, in effect, be a 2-year extension of that agreement. But regardless, this would put a 3% cap on our LAP insurance rates. LAP is liability, auto, and property coverage. That's a policy that CIRMA provides. CIRMA is a interlocal risk pool. It's effectively owned by the cities and towns in Connecticut that participate in the pool, so it functions really at a below market rate because they do not have a profit motive. This, we presented this to the insurance committee 2 weeks ago. Our agent has also provided a letter here. He does market research for us and compares the CIRMA offer to what's available on the market. He recommends extending this arrangement as well, particularly given the uncertain environment that we have and that we face over the next year or two. This would cap our rates at 3%, but we would have the opportunity, if the rates were less than that, to take advantage of a lower increase year to year.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from council members?
Just generally, as the liaison to the insurance committee, CIRMA really appears to do a really nice job with not only insuring our assets and liabilities, but also from a standpoint of the lack of profitability necessarily of CIRMA itself. And they do have a program which, almost like a mutual company, if they take in premiums that exceed their expenses, essentially make a profit, then they redistribute those right back to the town. So, well, as far as insurance goes, it seems like a really excellent relationship.
Great. Thank you, Councilman Forrest. No other comments? Okay, great. And as you said, Mike, this carries forward, next year, and then is it 2 years after that, or is this just a 1 year after that?
1 year after that, so it's 2 years beginning July 1st.
Gotcha. Okay. Good. Thank you. Can I get a motion? Adam?
I'll make a motion to approve a 3-year rate stabilization agreement for liability auto property insurance coverage with CIRMA for fiscal years FY 2021 and FY 21-22 and FY 22-23, and authorize the town manager to execute all agreements necessary related to said approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay? Ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. And thank you, Councilor Forrest, for your comments from the Insurance Committee.
Thank you, Mayor.
And I think that will do for actionable items, workshop items. Do we have, actually, I'm sorry, do we have a sidewalk construction and repair bid? Oh,
No, I apologize, Mayor. That should be off.
okay, yeah, I didn't see it. And then,
Mayor, it is on the official agenda. Do you need a motion to remove that from the agenda?
yeah, I may need that.
Okay, I'll make a motion then, with your, if you call on me, so to speak, to remove 6A from the agenda. That's it.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay. If you guys take a moment to review.
We need a vote, Mike.
Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion to remove 6A has been adopted. I'll give you guys all a minute to look at, and if you had any questions about the minutes at all for May 18th or May 19th budget workshop. If you guys are good. Motion to approve the minutes of, can I join both minutes? Both minutes, and May 19th?
Yes.
Okay. Motion to approve May 18th and May 19th minutes for the regular meeting minutes and budget workshop minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor, signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. And then going back to public comment, Mr. Evans.
Yes, sir. We have, looks like Mr. Young is still on the line. I will unmute him.
Good evening again. This is Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. Mayor, you were going to talk about the new rate. Unfortunately, I don't know anything about it, and I was hoping that you would have talked about it before you got started on public comment. Anyway, since you haven't, I guess I'll just have to move on. Listening to your meeting tonight, I know you've talked about some various issues, such as the shooting that you had in town a couple of years ago, and of course we're seeing all this other craziness or activity going on right now across the country, and it's really it's sad. It's very sad what's going on. It's sad what happened to that young man back a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, his situation was different than the one we just saw a week ago. He drove his car forward. This poor guy, a week ago, was on the ground and possibly had other problems that came along with the problem of holding his neck down and snuffing him out like he did. Very bad. Poor. I just don't know what else to say about that at the moment, except for it shouldn't be happening in this country. But as we talk about expenses, and again, I don't know what happened. You didn't talk about your finalizing of the budget, so I don't know what's happening. But I would hope as we go into this year, you folks look very serious at the costs that are going to follow you. Right now, we have costs that are unbelievable. The prior administration has indebted us. The prior administration and the prior ones have indebted us terribly. They have put us into such awkward position with bills, with what you call fixed price, or fixed cost. And I know at one of your meetings, not just recently, there was someone that made a comment. I listened a little bit in on it, and we can't do anything about it because it's a fixed cost. Well, guys, who is the one that finalized the fixed cost? It wasn't somebody downstream. It was somebody upstream. And the upstream was from the dais. Every one of those people sitting up there, 9 of them, the last administration, and the administration before them, and going back, voted. A number of them voted for it. Well, the majority voted, whoever they might be. And they have now put us in a very bad position. I have talked more than once about money that we are losing such as the Standish House. And Mr. Forrest himself voted for that particular deal that cut us out. We get $100 a year for the Standish House. We get $100 for the Kinney Center. And we could have used one of those buildings for our transitional academy, a portion of it. We could have used the remainder of it for other things. Instead, we're getting $100 and we're paying, $400,000, $500,000 to rent a building on Celestine Highway for the Transition Academy. We are taking a heck of a beating. And I would hope, Mayor, you would look into that and find a way to get out of that deal on the Celestine Highway and move them move the transitional academy into town hall, go back to the Kinney Center and get our property back, and put the transition academy in there if you could. It's on the bus line. The town hall is on the bus line. But originally, it was no, it wasn't available because somebody else gave the deal away. And that was Mr. Forrest and his entire council back in that time. You know, you guys have made, these guys, those prior administrations have made such bad decisions. And now here we are. We're short for money. We're looking at worse coming along. And Mr. Forrest still sits there like a real calm cucumber. Like nothing's wrong. Like he did nothing wrong. He did a lot wrong. And he's not the only one.
Mr. Young?
The fact is, yes, sir.
I think I heard
The fact is we need to do something about planning going out into the future for savings. I understand my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Looking down the list, Mayor, I do not see any other numbers at this time.
Okay. We don't have executive session tonight. I guess, and to Mr. Young's point, Gary, will the town be putting up some details about the budget soon on the website?
Yep, the budget adoption was posted on the Town of Wethersfield YouTube channel. And so it is available there. And the documents are also available for download. So if Mr. Young, if you can still hear me, if you want to watch the video, the May 29th, 2020 council budget adoption is available on going through the town website to the Town of Wethersfield YouTube channel. And I've sent him also a copy of the budget adoption notes, so the actual motions.
Thank you. And I know voting on a town budget does not make the nightly news on FSD, VIT, or anything. And really with the Hartford Current, unfortunately they've furloughed a number of reporters, some of whom have covered Wethersfield in the past. I think, traditional media is pretty quiet on the subject of budget votes. Hopefully Mark DiPaolo from the Rare Reminder that comes out weekly will have something this week. Instead, for right now, I think we got to get most of the information through social media, Facebook, and the like. But if Mr. Young is listening, the budget was adopted 7-2 on Friday evening. I don't have the final numbers, but the representative mill rate was a decrease from 40.74 to 40.69. Town council, or the town side and Board of Ed side, both saw increases in spending. No staff layoffs on the town side, no staff layoffs on the Board of Ed side. There were some realized savings. There were also some additional expenses that we put in to make sure town services continue, and hopefully we will realize some savings from some of those last minute additions to the budget. So with that said, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by me and second by Councilwoman Maureen Bello. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everybody.